Good morning, everybody. If it is even morning when you watch this, if not, happy whatever time of the day it is, happy whatever day it is. For me, though, it is morning and it is a Saturday morning, and I'm coming right off of a night in which I started my showdown. I did several streams for both UFL and FC, right? I've been covering both, several videos on both, so I would say I'm pretty immersed into both games. And why that is relevant for not only this video, but for the purpose of me making this video, which is that when I'm going into streams lately, I mean, the way to summarize my UFL experience is frustration. And the way that I'm looking at the game is if this game is like this, right? How many players are truly going to stick around? And I'm saying that in a way of helping UFL because in order for this game to thrive and continue into the future with high hopes, it needs a player base, right? The game isn't going to work if you only have this small little contingent of players and you're playing the same player over and over and over. You're getting 5, 10, 15 minute waits at a time. And then you finally do get into the game and finally do get to play that person over and over and over. And the game's not even fun. So the point that I take, or the perspective I should say, is if I'm just a regular old player, right, and I'm not like passionate about trying to make this football game work, am I truly going to wait all this time when I can get an instant game over at FC? Am I truly going to sit here and kick the ball at a huge defensive wall the whole time when I can go over to FC where the spacing is great now, right? Like UFL did have great spacing at the beginning, but now they don't. They did have a perfect little balance between AI assistance and manual defending, but now you just pack your defensive line, hold R1, and there you go. You have literally just about the same as the broken AI assisted cluster mess that was EA FC's defense pre-patch. Okay, so then they almost reversed. FC 25 puts their patch out and goes from the worst game to the best game, and UFL goes from wow, the best part about this game, in my opinion, the spacing, the ability to pass through the gaps and find dribbling lanes, and the ability to have to or be able to close down, dribbling lanes, close down those gaps, trying to block passing lanes and maybe intercept passes. There was just skill in defending, and they totally reversed. Now it's a jumbled up mess. Literally at any given time, you're facing 6, 7, 8 players in the box, literally smash inside the 18 yards box with 2 center defensive midfielders usually. That's all that's being controlled. The defense isn't being controlled. They just run around pressuring you until you, like I said, shoot into the wall or until they can hold R1 and have an AI defender come steal the ball from you. It's not football. The skill is not rewarded in it. And whenever a team does that, which is becoming more and more and more prevalent because that's what's rewarded in UFL, right? So in this background, what you're seeing is 1 minute increments of UFL and then FC. UFL, then FC. And this is very important as you're listening to what I'm saying to watch the difference in gameplay, right? Because that's the perspective, again, that's the perspective that I'm taking, and I don't want it to come off like I'm berating people for liking UFL or, berating people for not going over to FC. That's not the purpose when I do my streams. And I've explained it before, and I feel like I have a community that watches me enough, right? That I also know will watch the videos. That's why I'm kind of addressing this here. That knows where I'm coming from. If for some reason anybody has ever taken, the way I approach it as like I'm almost grilling them for liking UFL, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to ask them questions as if, hey, we need this player base to grow. If you're just a regular player, not someone like us that's passionate about the game, that's going to play the game, even though it has a lot of these negative things going on. But what about the average player, those players that UFL needs to keep around or to get back over to play UFL that maybe is left or hasn't played before? Maybe there's some players that just aren't as into football games, but they're going to pick it up later. Maybe there's some players that stuck with FC for a while longer, and then for whatever reason, maybe they don't like the manual defending over there, so they decide, hey, I want to come over here because I heard it's got AI assisted defense. Who knows what it is? But when those players come over, what are those negative things, right? And are those negative things going to drive the player away, right? So that's how I approach it. Meaning, I'll ask you, hey, tell me how you like this game right now. Look how glitchy it is. Okay, you waited 10 minutes to get in. Now you're in the game, and it's as glitchy as ever, right? Your opponent is just sitting there in the box. He's not going to get any shots except for maybe one. And the way it works, he might just go down and win 1-0. Okay, they have a lot of these goofy little things that they did with the patch, such as these corner kicks, right? The defender is going to win the ball most every time unless there's a height difference. Literally a height difference. Not jumping, not attributes on heading and stuff. For instance, like Ronaldo, who is not the tallest player, who's many times shorter than some of these defenders or center backs, but he can out jump them, right? He's great at headers. That's why it's a technique thing. It's not a height thing. So stuff like that, right then and there, you're going to lose a lot of just true to football fans, because what that signifies is that you don't know football at all. The fact that you literally release a note explaining that you're going to pull players out of the box, really? You're going to choose the team's like tactical setup for them because that's how you're going to handle crosses and corners. And not only that, but you're going to tell us that the defender is going to win the header, so you're telling us it's predetermined, unless you have a really tall player in the box to score goals on the attacking side. So then you're basically saying, let's go get a bunch of tall players. And guess what? That's exactly what many teams did. It's the same with all the other little nuances, right? So let's talk about the through ball. When you're watching in the background, FC, you can literally play a long through ball, short through ball, whether it's in the air, on the ground. And they nerfed their in the air through ball too. But the bottom line is just the ground ball through ball alone, okay, as well as all the others. You can make it accurate, whether it's a 10-yard through ball or a 50-yard through ball, right? And by accurate, I don't mean you're going to ping it, it's going to be a perfect pass every time. But what I mean is, if I'm going to play a little 10-yard through ball to my player because I want to lead him, because if I play it to his feet, it's going to take away the momentum, then I can play that and it's going to be accurate based on where I put, the direction I have my analog stick. UFL, you can play a perfect 50-yard ball into space and it looks this fluid, it looks excellent. And then you go for a little 10-yard through ball when you have the perfect lane for your striker or winger, whoever, and for whatever reason, you tap triangle and it still goes 50 feet. Or you tap triangle and all of a sudden it goes, way too far left or way too far right, almost like it has a mind of its own. And the through ball is one of the most important passes in football video games, right? Let's not even talk about real football right now, but what's the way that you keep momentum going, that you get players through on goal? The through ball, okay? And there's a big difference when you have to play the ball to the player's feet, and then it gives that defender that time to kind of react to that and get in front of that attacker to try to get between them and the goal. Whereas when there's momentum and you play that ball in front of the player, now that player's running onto it. There's no kind of split up in the play to give the defender a chance to react. And many times it keeps you from getting the ball and then countering quickly before your opponent can go back to parking the bus. So that's a very frustrating part, because proper through ball, right, would help so much with creating a skill gap, because you're finding the different passing lanes and angles and stuff like that, and you're able to get the ball through there. Because the through balls are so messed up, it's just another thing that takes away skill in this game. No different than the defensive setup in UFL right now. There's just simply not skill in it, okay? You just pack the defenders back there and then hold R1. And there's so many defenders that you're either going to get a block or the AI is going to run up and steal the ball away, because you're kind of stuck trying to break through the great wall of defenders and you can't do it, right? It's all these things that take away skill and reward glitchers, cheats, whatever you want to call them, right? Anti-football players, if you will. And that's what the game's chock full of. because the truth is you can't do that at FC. Post-patch, it's all about spacing. It's all about playing football. It's all about little tiki-taka passes, and the passes that you make are accurate. The through balls you make, whether they're 5-yard dinkers, which are very important through balls, right? Just as much, if not more important than the long ones, because it might be that little dink pass that splits two defenders and puts you perfectly in on goal to bury it. Whereas if you played the ball, say, to the attacker's feet there, it's going to give that defender just enough time to as you receive the ball, slide over and defend, okay? Now, with that being said, let's talk about defenders sliding. It's not fluid enough in UFL. Now, I know we can't nitpick it and it can't be exactly like FC, and I'm not saying that at all, but something that they need to fix to create more of a fluid gameplay is the ability to glide with the defenders, right? Too many times they get stuck, almost like it's chess movements, okay? Right? You're not supposed to just go one move, one spot, one spot, one spot, one spot, like they're kind of cutting back and forth, back and forth. It's not like they're in a fluid motion. And that's what FC has to make it more realistic to football. That's why many times you see in UFL, you get that situation where it's a pass and then an attacker kind of goes left, right, because the defenders aren't fluid enough. So they wait for that defender to get like a step behind, then they dribble by him, or in front of the box. They take a touch, left, right, one way or the other, wait for that defender to kind of commit, and then they shoot the ball because the defenders aren't fluid. They're not able to jockey and glide, and that way, if they were able to, they could block more shots. That's why that snapshot, by the way, with that animation, it's so overpowered because the defender can't slide and block it. So there's just these little nuances that, if they're addressed, will make UFL a more fun game to play because it will actually create skill gap, right? There's these little things that you can do in UFL. Even just the ability every time to play a ball out from your defense into your midfielder, and it always connects, right? And if not always, let's say almost always connects, which that isn't football, right? Many times you have to win the ball in the back and you have to work it up the field. You don't get essentially like a free locked on pass in that situation or any situation. So UFL kind of has these little things that almost make it easier for less skilled players, right? Which, if that's what UFL is going for, more of a casual / less skilled player, then that's fine. But then they have to stick to those guns. They can't kind of try to, get the best of both worlds, because right now, the most skilled players are for sure going to play FC. And not only that, but the players who want a more fluid game. So at the very least, they have to fix that through ball, right? But if they want it to be an honest, a skilled game where you go there and you want to compete, and there's a skill gap created, they're going to have to fix some of these fluidity issues and some of these just unrealistic, things that they have within UFL that FC has taken note of a long time ago and gotten rid of. So hopefully UFL can maybe take note of some of that stuff, and make their game better. I'm not saying it's going to have to be just like FC, but they can make it better. And the way to do that and go in a different direction than they've been going, which is seem to have made the game worse, right? This last patch definitely went a little bit in the right direction, but they still have themselves in a tangled mess overall. So I think the best way to fix that, right, is to make what I call universal fixes. What you must have in any football game to be viable, right? So for instance, take out things such as anything that has to do with height and giving, like, for instance, defenders guaranteed abilities to win a cross or a corner. They have to come up with a way to make it ability driven. So it is possible. FC did it, and it's not like that is something that's going to take years for UFL. They can do it. They just have to come up with a better system than what they settled for right now with the height thing. And in certain situations like that, and once they make those what I call universal fixes, Then they have to put their foot down and stick to their vision, right? Because then the game can get closer to what it was during that early release and initial release period, where yes, there were animation issues and certain this or that problems, but it was a new game. We could still get behind it because overall it was excellent. It was fun. The spacing was great, so you could play football. There was skill in the defending. So even with the lack of certain animations and even the kind of lack of fluidity in some of the movements, you still had the ability to defend, and it was a skill to move your defenders and block passes and block dribbling lanes. It was a skill to make passes through those different passing lanes and to dribble through them and whatnot. So they need to untangle this web, so to speak, and then they can absolutely save this game. Is it going to be easy? No. But they're already at this point, and if they keep going in the right direction, right, minimize future mistakes, it is possible to turn this game around and save it and keep it as a viable option to play as opposed to FC and as opposed to eFootball, or at least with FC or with eFootball, similar to what I'm doing now. But at this point, I'm playing both games not because I'm enjoying UFL, but because I have hope that UFL can change so I can eventually enjoy it. Most players won't do that. If there's going to be players that are going to be playing both, you need to make it where they enjoy both games, okay? Because most players won't play UFL just for hopes that it's better in the future. So there you have my take. I wish nothing but the best for UFL and all football games, because that's what the football gaming world needs, is fun, exciting, great football games to play. So keep on grinding, keep having fun, and we will see you next time.